Hey everybody, Dave here. Welcome back to the channel, and I'm going to be doing my recap of Gen Con 2025. Now, it's been about a week or so since the event, but I've had a chance to really kind of sit on things, dip into a couple of the games that I brought back, and kind of think about things and put some thoughts together. And I wanted to share with you about how Gen Con was for me this year. So, if you're not familiar with Gen Con, it is the United States' largest gaming convention held in Indianapolis, Indiana, and it is primarily in the Indiana Convention Center, and then they also have events in Lucas Oil Stadium and also in the adjacent hotels that are surrounding the convention center. There's all sorts of things that are there that are gaming related. So we went on the Saturday of Gen Con. So it runs from Thursday through Sunday, and we went down on Saturday just for one day. So I live about 2.5 hours or so from Indianapolis, and I went down with my buddy Chris, and we met up with my friend Tim Norris of Gray Elephant Gaming, and the three of us spent the day together. So early on in the morning, I went over, picked up my buddy Chris. He's in a wheelchair, so we had to take his van down. So got him all loaded up, situated, and we hit the road. Fortunately, we didn't hit any traffic on the way down. I think this is the first time that I can recall driving down to Indianapolis down I-65 and did not encounter any construction traffic at all. And there was no accidents or anything. It was smooth sailing all the way down. And when we got there, we parked in, I think it's called the World of Wonders Garage, which is literally right next to the convention center, connected by a skywalk. Now, I will say that parking this year, pricing was ridiculous. Everything shot up. In years past, I've been able to go and get parking for $12 to $20, within relative close distance of the convention center. This year, with it, I figured it was going to be hot, but fortunately it wasn't. But with Chris being in a wheelchair, I didn't want to have to go super far to find cheap parking. But this one hit me up for like $60 using a parking app. And I will say that if you are going to Gen Con and you are making arrangements for parking, make sure you use a parking app like ParkWiz. And it makes getting in and out super easy. You're not having to scan a card. You don't have to scan a card. I just went up, open up my app, scan the QR code, gate went up, we went in, and everything. And this was great because being adjacent to the convention center, it made it easier to come back and drop off some things before we went to lunch, which I'll talk about later on. So we got down there. We got down to the convention center roughly, I want to say maybe 8 o'clock, and I had to wait for the press room to open at 9 o'clock so that I could get my badge. And so we went in, and this is the first time that I went in on the second floor of the convention center and drove by, and I was amazed that in these big, huge, giant ballrooms, there's nothing but role-playing stuff going on, big tables of campaigns and stuff. So I kind of took a peek in there. And then I also saw it was almost like a college fair right down the ones that would be like the north side of the convention center. Down the hallway, there was several colleges that had booths set up, which at that time they were not really manned. They were set up. You could see what they were, but there was no staff there. Later on in the day, on the way out, I did see people that were there. So we were able to get in, managed to find an elevator and get down to the first floor so that Chris could get his badge. And we went in, and you typically, and I forgot, usually they will, if the staff there or volunteers see somebody in a wheelchair, they will point them over to the will call window and get their stuff for them, so they don't have to navigate through the line. It's like a little bit of a maze to get through to get your badges. But I didn't see anybody, and the line was short enough. I'm like, all right, Chris, let's just go through the line, which we did, and it wasn't really a problem. It was just a minor hiccup trying to get out because there was other people waiting in the row, and so we had to wait for somebody to get out, and we got our stuff done. But overall, the experience, their staff was very, very friendly, which was great. So then we went over and we met up with Tim, got our press badges, and then we decided to go over and head towards the hall and get lined up to figure out what we were going to do. Now, this year, what I had done and what Chris had done and Tim had done is we had gone onto Board Game Geek, and they have a Gen Con preview list of all the games that are set to be released at Gen Con this year. So if there are there were a lot of other exhibitors that were there, but if they didn't have something that they sent in that was going to be released at Gen Con this year, it wasn't on the list. But we went through the list, and I have to say overall, this year, the offerings of games was very lackluster. There was nothing that really stood out like, oh my God, this is going to be amazing or anything like that. But I still did manage to find some things that were of interest to me. And so I had gone down, I had a list of paper, I had written down where, what booth, who the publisher was, what the game was, and the cost. So, and there was a couple of games that I was interested in that I wasn't sure what types of quantities they were going to have, because some of them might have been like smaller publishers. And in the past, like the last time that I went to Gen Con, which was 2 years ago, there was some small games. All the small games were sold out. And I'm kind of thinking like, oh, well, everything on my list is kind of like small games. So I had messaged a couple of publishers wanting to know like, hey, are you going to do like, what's your stock look like? Do you have pre-orders? Are you doing customer holds or anything like that? Unfortunately, I didn't get any responses back at the time, but I had messaged them like a couple days before, so the convention was probably going on. I wasn't sure if they were going to check their messages, but anyways, while we were going across, the one thing that I noticed, and I think that this is great, is that there are several rooms that are across from the main convention hall that they've had events in the past, or some publishers have rented out those rooms, but there used to be like there was like video games or some kind of simulators or something set up, and I didn't really see those this year, but what I did see was a lot of these publishers were renting out the space, and they were having their own demo or event areas, and they had a storefront that was in there that they could open up and operate outside of the regular convention hall areas. So the first stop that I made was to publisher called IV Studios, and they had a drafting game called Graft that I was interested in. I was kind of hoping that it was going to be available, that it wasn't going to sell out, and I've got a copy of it right here. So this was my first stop, was to pick up this game Graft. You're drafting cards and you're making these little shipments that you're going to send off to this planet Zenith, and each of the cards, as you're drafting them, they have different scoring criteria on them, and then also they will have restrictions on other types of cards that you can't add afterwards. And there's a pressure luck aspect of if you get cards passed to you and there's nothing that you can put on your shipment, you bust, and then you have to start over with another shipment. And so that one I wanted to pick up. That was like one of the games I'm like, I really want to get this game. So I stopped in, they had it available, so I purchased the game ahead of basically the hall opening and our Gen Con day starting. So it cost me $30. And I will say that in the background here of the games, I came home with 12 games and one expansion. One game cost me $40. Everything else was $30 or less, with the majority of them being $20 or less. So a lot of just small stuff that I was interested in. And like I said before, the offerings of games, like a lot of the big games and stuff, there wasn't really anything that stood out to me that I'm like, I have to have this. And plus where I'm at where I'm at gaming wise and who I'm playing with and the types of games that I'm playing, these kind of fall right into that. And I'll talk about a little bit more of that towards the end. So we picked up Graft and we went over and we kind of decided where did we want to go. We needed to go to something that was like in the 400 aisle. So we went all the way to the east end of the convention center and lined up at the doors. And we got down on the floor and we decided we were going to play Graft. Now, remind you that my buddy Chris is in a wheelchair, so he kind of slides down and he's kind of propped up on his foot plate. And we're trying to learn this. We're trying to learn this game. And some people from the staff came up and said something about like accessibility, and that typically they will let some people in the convention center, if they're in a wheelchair, they let them in, and whoever's like their companions in a little bit early to give them a head start to beat the crowd. So we got in maybe, I don't know, 7-8 minutes before the normal doors opened. And so that was kind of cool. They pulled us up and lined us up over to the side. And I think that that's great that that they will accommodate people that have disabilities to be able to get in and kind of get moving, because it's difficult for people in wheelchairs to travel around there because the crowds are massive. There's tons and tons of people that were there. But we were able to get in, and we went and kind of headed towards our first booth destinations, and were able to acquire some games. And then over the course of the day, we worked through our lists, going and getting our games. And if somebody was wanting to check out something, we're like, okay, you go do this, I'm going to go do that. So we're very much like mission minded, it seemed like, on my visit this year. And so that was helpful because I was staying on track with the things that I was interested in. I really only had there were a couple games that I picked up that were, I guess if you want to call them, impulse buys. One of them was this game behind me, Insectarium, because I was captivated I saw the box and the press room, and I read the description on the back of like, oh, this seems like something that I would be interested in. So that one I ended up acquiring after going on checking it out at the booth. And then the other one was Vegas Strip back here. I had an idea of that game, how it plays and stuff. And when I happened to be walking at the booth, I'm like, I'm just going to grab it. But I will say that we had a list, and everything that I picked up this year, I had either was able to read the rules for the game ahead of time, or I was able to see a video of how it was played or how it was incorporated into a game, because I do have one expansion right there that's for In the Footsteps of Darwin. And or I was able to demo the game at their booth, which was I got a few card games over my shoulder that I picked up from when we were at the Devere booth. And I'll talk about that too in a little bit. So anyways, we went through. My buddy Chris was really interested in the Lord of the Rings Fate of the Fellowship, so we made it over to the Asmodee booth, and he was able to secure a copy. They only had 3 left when he got up to the window, so that was good. We were able to manage to get up and down the aisles and get all of our stuff that we were interested in. And so I found that through the day, the traffic was really bad down the main aisleways, so it was difficult to travel through that way. So we ended up skirting around pretty much like the back of the convention center, and we pretty much were visiting a lot of the booths that were on the back part of the convention hall, not so much the ones up in the front. And that was mostly because of what we were interested in. That's where the booths happened to be numbered. So that went on for a good portion of the day. We got most of our games that we were interested in, and then we decided around maybe 1:30 or so to take a break for lunch. And the plan was to go to there used to be a Noodles and Company restaurant that was about a block away, and it was actually in the same building as the parking garage that we were at. So we took off, dropped off our games and stuff, so we didn't have to lug bags around, especially with my buddy Chris. He had a big bag with Fate of the Fellowship, and he had his other games in there, and so it was kind of clunky walking around. We have our stuff, plus we're carrying his so that he can navigate his wheelchair. So we went and dropped that stuff off. We went to lunch, but what replaced the Noodles and Company was some sort of like a chicken place. I forget what it was called, Chicken Scratch. And so we went in there, and I had like a Cajun chicken sandwich, like a Cajun chicken club. And that was pretty good with some fries. And pretty much I've been very mindful about the stuff that I eat. I've made some lifestyle changes and stuff like that. So I went, I'm like, all right, I could splurge. That was pretty much the only thing that I had to eat during the day. I had that. I had a couple snacks that I had in my bag and water and things like that. So we went and we had lunch, sat down, was able to unwind for a little bit, and then we decided that we were going to go back to the convention center to play some games. But we had like one final stop that we needed to make. my buddy Chris wanted to go to Check Games to go pick up. There was a game called Mew and More. CGE was distributing it for another publisher. So we did that, and while we were doing that, Tim had gone off to DVC Games to go pick up a game called Scream Park that we had seen. We had gone to their booth to check out this game called Here Lies. It was on my list, and after getting the demo and talking to them, explaining it, I was kind of like, I don't think that this is gonna work for my group. I like the concept of the game, but in reality, I don't think that it's going to get played. And I'm like, was not interested in buying games that were just going to sit on my shelf with the hopes of them being played. I have plans to get all of these games played. And that other one was like, yeah, I think somebody's going to like it. And then after describing it and playing it, I'm like, no, this game is not going to, for the people that I want to play it with, it's going to be a little bit more than they wanted, what they wanted to get into. So, but Tim came back and surprised me with this game, Corvids, right here. And because we got a demo of that, and that's a dexterity game, so you're essentially like these scavenger birds, like ravens and crows, and you take all these cards and you pile them up, and it's kind of like a pile of trash on this mat, and you have feathers in there. And over the course of the game, you have an identity of what your bird is, and you have your nests are kind of covered up by some of the trash. So over the course of the game, you have to flip over a card or cards or whatever you essentially have to go through, and then you take one card off of the top that's completely uncovered and you put it in front of you. You can either use these little tweezers or you can use your hands. And you'll score points at the end of the game based upon what you have. But if at any time that your nest is uncovered, you have to reveal what type of bird you are, and then it exposes what types of things that you're scavenging for, so other people could try to thwart your plans and stuff. That's like, oh, this is kind of fun. I thought it was a novel idea for that particular type of game, and I was kind of thinking, like, oh, maybe I'll get it, maybe I won't. But anyways, Tim surprised me, and he brought me back a copy of Corvids, and he picked up this game, Scream Park, which in essence would have been kind of like an impulse buy, but he had gotten a demo and an overview of the game at the booth, so he had an idea of what it would be like, and he decided that was up his alley. And the good news is that he's played it like a few times. He's setting it up and it's kind of playing either two players or playing solo. He's been having a blast with it, which is great. That's what we do. We buy our games to play them. So anyways, enough rambling on about that. So we got back, finished up getting what we were looking for, and then we went over into the there's like this hall that's adjacent to where all the vendor hall. There's a bunch of tables and stuff where a lot of the vendors and stuff, they have events over there, and we found an empty table that we sat down to, and we decided we were going to unwind and we were going to play some games, because that was like one of the plans, like, let's get some games, let's go and bust them out and let's play them. So at least this way we go home with, games that have been played that we purchased. So we went, and the three of us, we each got a chance to play one of the games that we picked up. So we ended up playing Graft because we had tried learning it before the convention hall opened up, and it was not, we didn't get very far until they said, okay, you can move and come in and everything. So I'm like, okay, perfect. We're going to play this. We went through a couple of things. It took a couple turns to kind of get into it, because you have to understand like some of the iconography and things like that. But once we got through, it was, once we got that down, okay, we had a great time playing that. Then the next game that we played was a game that my buddy Chris bought called Dogs with Jobs. Now, when he was reading off his list and I hear this game, Dogs with Jobs, I'm thinking like, okay, is this like a kid's game or something like that? But actually, it's a really, really cool a game where there are specific types of dogs, and they all are ones that would be considered working dogs, and either like rescue dogs or guard dogs or retrievers or whatever they are. And over the course of the game, you are going to be recruiting these dogs and building units for your team, and your team can only have 4 types of dogs. And within there, each of your teams can have like 3 things that make up a unit. So you can have a maximum of 12 dogs, and they have different experience levels. And then what you're doing is you are trying to complete these job cards, and the jobs are worth points. But the job cards are also the types of cards that you need to discard for your currency to be able to recruit these dogs. So it's kind of like a little bit like San Juan or games like that where the cards are multi-use. They're either going to be used for one thing or the other. So you'd have to discard cards face down, and like, I'm paying for these. You set them aside, or maybe they're face up. You just discard the cards to be able to recruit your dogs. And then the other thing is all the dogs have each type of dog has an ability that you can use that can help you, and sometimes you can use it to sort of steal things from your opponents and stuff. So there's a little bit of some take that in there. So the game really, really good, very engaging. And it's 8 rounds, so it plays really, really quick. And we had a great time playing it, and we didn't even scratch the surface with this game, because we were just kind of getting through like how to play this. Okay, I can complete these jobs, I can do this, I'm not going to lose points here, I'm going to do this. We sort of dabbled with some of the dog abilities, but really, like with this game, that game is going to be rewarded with more plays, because the more you get into it, the more you know how to use the abilities. The situations will arise when you can maximize these dogs and really have them work for you. So we played dogs with jobs, and then finally, the last game that we played, and I also have a copy, is this game here called Menagerie Unlock the Wonders of a Miniature World. And this is a tableau building game with these insects that you're going to try to put into these terrariums in order to score points, and you want to try to group them within certain colors. And each of the cards, when you play them, they have abilities that you can trigger. Sometimes they have if they have a pattern thing that you can score these little tokens that you can use later on for if they're in a group with cards from a different order or color. You have cards that they consider like fierce, and you can move them from one terrarium to another, because in the course of the game, when you do something, you unlock a certain terrarium. That's where you have to place your cards. But there are certain abilities that can trump that and will allow you to move insects into other areas so that you can manipulate them. And you also have like a benefactor card, which is a person that gives you a specific ability, so a little bit of asymmetrical powers. And then everybody has a showcase card, which is you keep that hidden, and it's a way for you to score points at the end of the game, additional points. And so we played through that, had a great time with that. Really, really enjoyed it. And in fact, I got a chance to play my copy last night with my wife. So anyways, so by this time, though, the convention hall had closed, and we just sat back and we just kind of chilled. And I'm like, this was very, very nice. I really, really enjoyed myself. And so that's how we spent our day at Gen Con. Now, some highlights that we had is while we were traveling through the vendor hall, we had gone over to the DeVere booth to go and check out. There's a game called the Guest, and it was going to be like a hidden identity, hidden role game, and it was supposed to be for demo, and they did not have it there. And so we kind of fell into, there's a lot of these little smaller card games. And we just started checking those out. And so there was this girl that we played with, and she taught us three different games. There was a game called All Aboard, another one called The Lie, and another one called Match. And I'm going to have a couple of those right here. I picked up Match and All Aboard. This one, you're trying to load up animals onto a boat. Hopefully it doesn't sink. They've got some different abilities, and if you can put certain ones together, they fall in love. Really kind of a neat little game. Plays really, really quick, and it plays up to five players. And then Match is kind of like an Uno type game, but you're also having a tableau in front of you. You basically want to have cards that don't match what's in the center, so you can play them down in front of you to score points. Kind of a neat little game. So we played around with that. And then we had gone over to another table, and we happened to spend some time with I believe he was the product manager for DeVere, I want to say South America or something like that. He was not for the United States market. And so I was inquiring with him about a couple different games, and he showed us a game called Ouch, which he basically said this game is either for little kids or lots of drinks. And he kind of showed it to us. It really wasn't our jam, and he kind of knew that. So he quickly just gave us a summary, and we moved on from that. And then we tried a game called Venturesome, which you're playing cards and you're trying to assemble these expeditions and hoping that the people in your expeditions don't die, because basically somebody's going to die. It's basically like everybody's going to die, So and we had fun with that. I enjoyed it. I would have picked it up. However, I don't really think that like people in my family would. It would take them a little bit of time to understand how the cards play. And then he took us over to play this other game that I grabbed called Moira. Yeah, Moira, or Myre, or however you say that. But that has to do with Hercules and the Three Fates. And there's different criteria that come out for scoring, and you're trying to build like these lines of cards, basically Hercules' life. And you can progress how old you can make him before he dies, and you start a new life. And you can have all these different things going on. It's a neat little card game that we really enjoyed playing. But we were at the booth for like over an hour, and we had a blaster. So that was a big highlight. And then at the end of the game the end of the day, playing games in the hall. Those were like the two highlights of the game. Going around and buying stuff was fun, but it's a little mind-racking trying to deal with the crowds. But those were like the highlights. The games that I had, I think there's only like a couple things that were back here that I didn't talk about, like over my shoulder. There is Timbertown, and there's a game called This Game is Killer. Frozen Horror, which is based on The Thing. And then I have Four Forests and Trinket Trove. And Trinket Trove was one that I really wanted to get. So I was able to get a copy of that. And that's a set collection game, and you're bidding, and so you're offering cards up, and then they go into display, and then whoever bid the highest, they get to choose sets of cards first, and they go into their hand, and you're trying to build a hand of different sets of cards, so at the end of the game you can score. So it has an interesting thing, like I think there was a game called Fantasy Realms or something like that. Or not Fantasy Realms. I forget what it's called now, but it's essentially kind of like a rummy style game. And then Four Forests is a little game where you have certain creature types that are out in the middle, and you're going to be building a tableau of cards, hoping to be able to score points off of what their things are, but you're also taking a card and you're voting them up and down for their powers. So kind of like, I guess if you want to say, like, what's that app where you can up and down vote different things? I forget what it's called because I don't use it. But anyways, you're going to take cards, and you're secretly going to vote either a positive or negative on some of those creatures. And at the end, you're going to resolve how they stand, and then wherever they kind of fall in the voting, you're going to get. They're going to be able to have points for, or how many points are going to score, and whoever has the lowest voting, they're actually going to count negative. Oh, Reddit, that's what it was. Reddit was the name of the app that basically you can up and down vote things. So that's kind of like what that was about. And then the Frozen Horror one is essentially you're trying to stay alive and be the last person standing, and every round somebody's going to be the horror, and they're trying to get into rooms and upset plans, and it plays in like 10 minutes, so it's pretty quick. So those were that was like my haul. And I will say this, that with the exception of Insectarium, which is a game this was the one that I ended up purchasing after seeing in the press room. I ended up brought that home, played it with my wife. I played it solo. We really, really enjoy it. Yes, a similar theme there. We've got 2 games with bugs. So maybe that was kind of like the interesting thing. I thought the artwork was great on both of them. And we've been enjoying those. But that game was $40. And I think I'm not sure if I said this before, all of the games that I purchased were like $30 or less, with most of them being like under $20. So I think that I bought all of this stuff here, and I spent less than $200 on games. And, so for me, that's like, yeah, some people may think, wow, that's a lot of stuff. I don't really think it's like a huge haul. It's big, but not like the other people have been posting pictures with like 40 or 50 games in their what they brought home. And I don't know what their buying habits are, if that's what they just buy for the 1 year or not. But I bought these games to play here, and then I host a couple of game days a year, and these are games that will hit the table for that. Timber Town, that's a 2-player. I bought that to play with my wife. So anyway, so those were some of the highlights. And then really quickly, if there was anything that I would want to do different, or I don't really feel that I missed anything per se. Because I just kind of felt like it would take too long to sit there and go up and down all the aisles, which I've done that before in the past over multiple days. But if I had something to do different, I would maybe extend it to like one more day, and then take some time to kind of peruse the aisles and look for some things, because of the fact that we were so focused on what was on the list. We didn't really stop and visit any other booths to see what was going on. So I guess if I missed it, I missed it, but at the end of the day, I didn't really miss it because it wasn't on my radar to begin with. So, but anyways, that was my Gen Con wrap up for 2025. And look forward to seeing some things with these games on the channel. I'm looking forward to presenting them and talking about them. And we will talk to you again soon. Just on the coming up, I'm going to be doing some a gaming roundup, and start doing some look aheads as to what's coming up. And also on the channel, I'm going to be trying to do or experiment with some shorts on here. So a couple different things. I'm kind of toying around with ideas for the channel, because I guess things will be evolving as they go on. But anyways, thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.